Okay, would anybody here like to comment? What's your view? What do you think's going on? Anybody suspicious?
Who's going to game?
Follow the money. Tirza, is that your hand up or are you scratching your head?
The hand up to ask if that can be challenged or is that final. Do I need this?
It can be judicially reviewed.
Only, but there is no process of appeal in the council's procedures? No.
You can judicially review the planning inspector.
If you have the money.
Yeah.
A judicial review could cost £20,000. Our Residents Association does not have that kind of money, and nor does our...
Somebody who's eligible for legal aid. It's not a lot of legal aid around, but...
It's almost impossible to get a judicial review unless you've got a huge bank. And my chairman and my finance director certainly are against us threatening the existence of our Residents Association by trying to go for a judicial review. What we are looking at, if I can follow. Okay. What we are looking at the moment, I've got a meeting on Sunday. We're looking at the possibility of applying for it to become a community asset. It's not, if we did go down that route, it's not it wouldn't make the green very secure, to be honest. It doesn't give any extra security to that piece of green. What would happen is there's two things that can, if it was classed as a community asset transfer, it could be transferred to whoever actually gets it registered as a community asset transfer at a slightly lower than market value. So in other words, if the trustees of the library wanted to get it registered as such, ultimately if the council decided they want to sell it off, they could possibly buy that piece of land at slightly lower than market value. The other possibility, and maybe the councillors know more about this than I do, I don't know if Alan knows more about this kind of thing. I'm certainly no expert, but and that's why I'm meeting somebody on Sunday to actually learn more about this. But the other thing that it could be is it could be classed as an asset of community value. Now that, once again, doesn't give it really much protection, but what would happen is if the council decided to sell that off, they would have to let the people who got that registration, they would have to let them bid for the land. It doesn't mean to say they get first option, and obviously if they couldn't raise as much money as a developer, they wouldn't win the bidding process, but if they were registering to get it registered as an asset of community value, then they would get the option of bidding for it. But it's nowhere near as secure. A village green, if it had been registered as a village green, if we had persuaded the councillors at that meeting to go ahead, a village green actually has a lot more protection than an open space, registered open space, for example. And the main reason is if a developer wanted to build on that piece of land, it wouldn't be Barnet who decided whether it would go ahead or not. It would have to go to an independent assessor, which would be probably another council or some other party that had nothing to do with Barnet. In other words, the decision about whether the developer was given the go-ahead would be taken totally out of Barnet's hand. And that's why generally a village green is seen as a much safer option for most pieces of land. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that on this occasion.
Yes, Julia.
Just to say on the community asset point that there's currently a consultation on the council's website about what should be about what the criteria for registering a community asset should be, and essentially what they are saying is that it should be in line with the core strategy. The advantage of registering something as a community asset is that it's a material consideration in a planning process. I've also had a village green application that failed for exactly the same reasons as yours on the as of right point, and we then went on to register the land as a community asset. But clearly the council feels that there have been I think they've been unhappy that they don't have a policy in place about it. The policy that they've chosen is essentially what they say is we don't want to register as many things as community assets as we have been. That's what they say on the front page of their thing. And we believe that the policy for registering community assets should be democratically decided, i.e. the core strategy. And I think that what you need in planning is attention, is a space for people to make arguments. So being a material consideration doesn't decide whether or not you can build on something, but it's something that you need to think about. So I think people should respond to the consultation, is what I would say.
There is one other option, and it's a much more convoluted way of protecting it. But you might remember the Localism Act that came through 2012. It's tried to encourage groups of local residents to set up neighbourhood plans. Now, my association looked at setting up a neighbourhood plan for our area, and we decided it was far too onerous, the requirements for it. But if you as local residents wanted to go forward with that, I'm sure something could be worked out. It isn't a one-off thing. You don't set up one neighbourhood plan and that's it. It's almost like setting up a parish council, and you would take responsibility for the things in your local area, which would include actually finding pieces of land to build on. So it's a rather kind of a double-edged sword, but it does give you more control over your local area. And Barnet Council are actually I was looking at the website today, and they're actually getting ready to put in place the first neighbourhood plan, which is going to be in Mill Hill and Hale. And one of the main reasons that that area wanted to set one up is they wanted to see improvements at Mill Hill Broadway. So if we had enough support, it would be one option and one way of providing safety for both the library and for the gardens. But once again, it's a long-term thing, and there are good people saying, oh yes, I'll put my hand up and do that, stay for 6 months and then disappear. Because once you set one of these up, it's a long-term, as I say, it's just like setting up a parish council.
Well, I think that leads us very nicely to our second question, which comes from Phil Fletcher.